Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about memoizing and the memoize technique. But just before going there, let's just find out what is memoize. Memoize is basically to store the result of a computation so that it can be subsequently retrieved without repeating the computation. Basically, in a nutshell, it means if we just do a calculation 2 plus 2 is 4, the second time we run that function with the same argument, then we don't have to go through the whole process. So you just memoize or save it or cache the result somewhere that if the argument of the function doesn't change, very likely if it's a stateless function, then the output will be always the same. So 2 plus 2, no matter how many times you run the function with these two arguments, will be 4. So it's just going to cache it, then you're not going to run it just, I don't know, every time you just call that function. It's going to be very handy, it's going to be very useful if you are repeating yourself for some specific cases. We're going to see some examples here, and then you can see where you can leverage in your code base. So basically that's memoize, and then if you want to see how they say it,
memoize.
That's it, memoize. And then if you go to the memoization in Wikipedia, then you can pretty much see the same thing. So in computing, memoization or memoization, just two versions of writing American English and British English, is the optimization technique used primarily to speed up computer program by storing the result of expensive function call and returning the cache result when the same input occur again. Basically, it means what I was trying to explain at the very beginning. So if the arguments are not changing in your function, the output will be the same. So if you run it 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, nothing gonna change as long as your function doesn't have any state or previous state. So it's not stateful, then if it's not stateful, the output is not gonna change very likely. So you need to be very careful. If you know the output is not gonna change, then maybe you should use this technique, which is going to bring a lot of benefit. So we are going to use some of the function and some of the well-known npm packages, which I'm going to go through all of them and show you some examples, and then you can decide which one is the best thing for your code base or for your services. The first thing we're going to use is memoizee. So basically it has 3 or 4, almost 4 million downloads, and then it's going to give you just some sort of solutions. So if I zoom in, you can see, for example, you can read all of these good things about memoizee, and then there are some examples. We have memoizee here as well. So to begin with, so we have greeting.js as well. So greeting.js has a sleep function. We don't care what is behind there, but it's just basically wait a few seconds or milliseconds basically, and then is going to run something. Then we have greeting function, which is going to receive one argument, which is name in this case, and we're going to log something that it shows we are calling the function, and then we are going to just return a string. In this case, we're going to say the timestamp, so the time, and also hello name. It's very simple, but you will get the idea when we run through some examples. The whole idea is just to make it very simple to understand, then you can leverage it and you can use it in your code base, no matter how complicated is the computation, the calculation and computing in this function that you want to memoize it. Okay, so remember, we have this greeting and we have sleep. Okay, I'm going to close it. Now we're going to memoizee. So memoizee, you're just going to import it. Basically, because I'm using JavaScript and also I am importing like this. So in package.json, I am having this one, type module. That's why I can just say import. Otherwise, it should be const memoize, then equals require memoizee. Anyway, moving on, that's not the case. So what you have to do is to memoize the function. So our function, if you remember, it was greeting. So we are memoizing it with memoizee, as you can see here. And then now the new function is memoized greeting. So if we call memoize moho the first time, because this is not the input or the argument is for the first time is not cached, it's going through the function and then log it and move on. The second time is the same thing, but here it's already know what is going to happen if the input is moho. So it's not going to do anything. So this is going to be cache. Second time is go to JavaScript. Again, it already knows what's happening with the JavaScript. So it's going to cache it. And also here as well. So the last one is also going to be cached. So remember, when we go to greeting, it stops 2 seconds. So you just want to basically mock a kind of slow or very expensive calculation here, or very slow computing. So these 3 times is going to be cached because it's already run through them. Remember that it's going to be check for the value of the argument, even if it is a string or integer or anything, as a strict equal. So if you have a different case, so imagine if you have a JavaScript with a small s, not capital S, then it's going to be treated differently. But long story short, let's just run it and find out what do I mean by that. So it's memoizee.js. You can see it goes to the function, the first 2 lines, and just print something. It's 212904. Then goes to the JavaScript, and then also it's still in a function. So if I go to greeting, open side by side, let me close this one. Yes. So you can see if I am running the function, I should see this console log. Otherwise, the output is this return. Okay. So the second time for the JavaScript, again, it goes here. But then the second attempt to call moho, or greeting moho, my name, and basically look at the timestamp. It's 212904, which is like the first one. So it cached the output and cached the cache the input and output, and then the second time you're going to call it, or how many times you're going to call this one, the value will be cached. So that's very important to remember. No matter how many times I'm going to call it, again, as you can see, I call JavaScript again. So this JavaScript is 212906, same as what happened here, 212906. And for moho, no matter how many times I call this one, 212904, I'm going to get the same value because this one has been cached. Okay, that's the first one, memoize. Something to remember is that no matter how long you're running your code, this is going to be cached. So you need to be very careful. Sometimes you need to clean the cache somehow. This function is not going to give you as long as your service is running, it's going to be cached. So if you kill the service and rerun the service, then it's going to remove the cache basically. So remember, and it's very important part of this exercise. Okay, moving on, we're going to use the fast-memoize. Fast-memoize is basically pretty much the same thing. They are just claiming that they are very fast. They're going to use some techniques, and we will see it in just example as well. So if I open fast-memoize here, I'm going to close this too because we're not going to need it anymore. So with the fast-memoize, so we're just testing do something. Basically what it does is going to say inside the function, it just add them, really do nothing. Again, we are memoizing do something, and we try to change, we're trying to add these 2 numbers basically. And again, we are also going to memoize the greeting function again, and let's see it in that in this example with this npm package. So it's going to be node and then fast-memoize.js. So as you can see, it's only inside the function 1 time. If you look this one, it's only going to run this line of code or the console log only 1 time, because the second time here it's cached. So it's not going to really go to inside. It's not going to inside the function. It's actually going to output whatever was the previous output or the cached output. Okay, that's very interesting. And then once we do the greeting, is the same story. So it's going to inside the greeting function, and it's for the moho. The timestamp is still the same, 3157. The second time is also called moho, is 3157. Because we have 2 seconds delay, you can see. So here is the moho, which is 3157. The next time it's going to run the JavaScript is 3159. So it's 2 seconds delay if you remember in a greeting function, and then run it again. So it's again quite simple, just no different, but it's a different package, fast-memoize. Moving on, we're going to go to memoize-one. So memoize-one is a little bit different. If you read this one, it says, unlike other memoization library, memoize-one only remember the latest arguments and result. No need to worry about the cache busting mechanisms such as max age, max size, and everything else. Basically, what it means, if you look at the example, so if you call memoize add with 1 and 2, it's going to call the function and return 3. If you call it again, it's not going to run it because it's cached. Second time, you call again the same function, which was add, and it's memoize add. 2 and 3, data are new, arguments are new, so it's going to run the function and return 5, obviously. Memoize 2 and 3, exactly the same thing, is not going to call it, just cache, result true. 1 and 2 again. So here, because it's memoize-one, it's only going to cache the last one, which is 2 and 3. So if you call 1 and 2, even though we called them a few minutes ago or just a few lines above, then this is not cached, it's going to call it again. What do I mean? So here, if you call, for example, here we're using greeting function again. So if you call moho, the first time it's going to call it, second time it's going to be cache. Then we change it to JavaScript. It's a new thing. So it's going to call the JavaScript. Then it's go to moho, but because the last one, which was cache, was JavaScript, is going to call moho again. So let's just say this one is call or execute. Actually, it's better to call it execute, and this is execute. Again, here is execute, but next time will be cache, because when it's going to run this one, it will look at the previous execution. Previous execution was moho, so it's cached. Again, here it will be execute because the previous one was moho. Here, although it will be cache, and then here will be again execute. So that's something to remember. This is going to only cache the latest or the last function with the argument. So if you change the argument, again it's going to run it. And if you call the previous one, because it's different from the one which was run again, now it's going to execute it again. So if I call now memoize-one.js, you can see, so it's moho, second time is cache, then it's called JavaScript, then it's calling moho, again cache moho because it's 2 times, and then JavaScript, the next time JavaScript call, the second time here in line 12, it's cached, and then it's calling moho, and then move on. So memoize-one, it's going to cache only the latest execution with the argument. So if the latest execution with the argument was moho, it's going to cache moho. If the next one is JavaScript, then you will remove moho and only keep the latest one, which is JavaScript. Okay, moving on, we will go to memoizerific, something like that. Okay, this is also pretty much good. So you can see we have 4 million downloads per week, and I am just going to close this one and open the file again. So we can just, here it's a little bit more interesting, because what it's going to do is going to cache 3 functions only. So 3 functions with the latest argument. And if I go there, it says memoize, for example, the 50 most recent argument combination of our function. So the first combination is moho. So this is call or execute actually. And then it's JavaScript. It will execute JavaScript as well. Then it's going to execute TypeScript as well. Then now this is a number 4, which is new. It's going to execute number 4, which is Node.js. But remember, we are saying keep only the last 3 combinations. Now moho is not cached anymore. So if it's called moho, it's going to again execute it. And now again, looking back, only cached one is moho, Node.js, and TypeScript. So if you call JavaScript again, it's still going to execute it because every time only three arguments are in the cache. So if I'm just coming here and if I look at the cached one, the first one is moho. Actually, I'm going to just do this so you can see what I'm talking about. So cached ones, the first one is moho, then JavaScript. Actually, it's capital, so let's keep it capital. Then we have TypeScript. Good. And line 10 is going to add Node.js. So if it's going to add Node.js, Node.js, because we only keep 3 of them, it's going to remove the top one. So now we have Node.js. Then it's going to bring back moho. So it's moho. Then again 3 is going to get rid of JavaScript. Then again it's going to add JavaScript one more time. So it's going to get rid of the first one from the stack or the last one from the stack, no matter how you want to call it. So again we have 3. Now it's going to call moho again, but because moho is already here in the last 3 one, this is going to be cached, and the last one is going to be cached as well. So let's see it in action. This is very important if you just want to have some control on how many combinations that you want to cache. So if I just say node, and here is memoizerific. Okay, there we go. You can see it's calling moho, it's calling JavaScript, it's calling TypeScript, it's calling Node.js. One more time calling moho because it removed from the cache. Then it called JavaScript, but for the last time, which is calling moho, is already cached. So this is also something to know and consider as well. Moving to the next one is mem. So mem has the most download, and let's just see how can we leverage this one. I'll open mem. So with a mem, you have a little bit more options if you're going to use. For example, you can just set what is the max age for the cache for that specific argument combination. So we are, again, we're using greeting, and then we are checking for 2000 milliseconds. So we're using delay function, which is going to really also wait for that delay. But long story short, so we only keep the cache for 2 seconds, not more. So it's going to call moho. Second time is still in a place because it's not 2 seconds. We're going to wait 3 seconds, call JavaScript, so it's not cached. So this is execute, actually. Execute. The second time it's going to be cached. Then we're going to wait 3 seconds. Our cache will be expired. It's going to remove moho. So the next time is JavaScript, so it's new. Obviously, it's going to execute it. Doesn't matter. The next time it's going to call moho because it was 3 seconds. We don't have anything in cache. It is removed, so it's going to execute it one more time again. So if I just do node mem.js, you can see, so moho was run once, and then the second time was cached. We wait 3 seconds, we run JavaScript, and then again, the next time is going to call moho or greet moho. It is not in the cache because it's already expired. We only keep it for 2 seconds. We're waiting for 3 seconds. That's why it's gone. And if I just see, you can see it here. Now, if I change this one, for example, to 5 seconds or 5 milliseconds, so we have 2 seconds here. We are waiting 3 seconds. It will be 5 seconds. It might be gone or not. We will see. I'm going to actually make it, I don't know, 7. So we definitely, this time, this is going to be cached. So let's see it. So we are keeping everything in a cache. So we create this one, wait 3 seconds, then just execute JavaScript, which is 2 seconds, so it's 5 seconds. When we come to this line, this one should be cached. Let's see. So in recalling Moho, the second time is cache, then JavaScript, then again, this one is still cached. If you look at the number is 214309, which is exactly the same thing. So this is all cached. So that's something also to consider if you're going to use with mem. You have max age. And if you go to the API, you have even more options. So you have max age, you have cache key, and I think you have more stuff if you want to look into it. So make sure you read the documentation before using them, because some of them only just look for the first argument. If you have 2 arguments, then you need to just behave a little bit differently. So here in npm trends, we are going to check and do some sort of comparison here together. So we are checking fast-memoize, memoize-one, and memoizee, and memoizerific. So you can see mem has the most download, but the green one, which is memoize-one, is actually catching up. So it's also getting to be more popular. The least popular one in terms of download is fast-memoize, and then these 2 yellow and red, which is memoizee, and memoizerific is not actually getting so much of what do we call it, interest in terms of download. And then if you scroll down a little bit, we can see the stars, the issues. So for example, mem has no issue, it's already version 9, the last updated was a year ago, and it's 10 years old. And also the bundle seems to be not very big as well, or maybe it's quite big. I need to double check. But if you go to mem one more time, okay, it's not very big, it's quite just not a big on pack size, to be honest. It's not like very big, so we don't need to be worried about it. But moving back here, so this is just a bit of like comparison, all of them together, and it's also important to make sure when was the last time they have been updated. So mem has been updated not long ago to compare with others. Okay, just moving on. All of these things are good, but the other thing that I'm going to show you is p-memoize. So it's promised memoizing, promise-based function. So how to memoize promise-based one. So memoize promise returning an async function. So let's see an example very quickly here. I'll go to p-memoize. So we are going to import the p-memoize from the library. We're also going to use gut. Gut is just a Node.js HTTP library package that everyone is using. So we are using it here as well. So we are memoizing gut, and then we are trying to, ignoring this console time and time end for a second, are going to get like a URL. So this is going to return a promise. That's why it will take a few seconds or milliseconds, depends. And then we are logging the status code. And in order to find out how long each took, I'm just going to put them in a console.timer. So we are using the same, label in the console.time and console.timeend in order to get the execution between whatever is between line 6 and line 9. Okay, and the second time, which should be cached because the value or the argument is exactly the same thing when we are using memoize gut, because we are memoizing gut library, GOT. Okay, so you can see the second attempt. Again, we put them in a console.time, console.timeend, just to get the idea. Okay, now I'm going to run this one now. It's node p memoize.js is going to run it. The first attempt, so the status code for both of them was 200, but the important part is the first attempt, which wasn't cached because that was the first time, it took 1.9 and something second. So it's almost 2 seconds. But the second attempt, which was cached, it took pretty much 52 milliseconds. So 0.052 milliseconds. And every 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. So remember, This is much faster because nothing has changed. This is also interesting to consider if you're going to use promise-based function and if you want to memoize them. But as I said from the beginning, you should be very careful what you are going to memoize. If you know, for example, something is going to change and the value is dynamic, or there is a state in your function, you should be very careful and you should question yourself that do you really have to memoize it or not. But if you are sure that this computing and the process that you're going to run in your function is quite heavy and expensive, maybe the best thing is to memoize it, and then for the second run your execution would be very, very fast. So here we are at the end of the video, and I hope you enjoy this type of content. So please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the channel, which I'm going to put more content very soon. And thank you so much, and see you next time. Okay, here is the end of the video, and I hope you have learned something and you enjoy watching this kind of comparison and these techniques that I'm sharing in the channel. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to put more content in a video. Here we are at the end of the video, and I hope you enjoy watching this type of content. And if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time very soon. Bye.